Many fans of the three-body problem assume the Trisolarans are small and insect-like, but that idea is probably wrong. And more importantly, it doesn't come from the original trilogy. The bug-like interpretation is from The Redemption of Time, a story that began as fan fiction and was later published with approval, but does not carry the same canonical weight as Liu Cixin's work. In this book, Will Downing awakens aboard a Trisolaran ship and sees countless tiny beings, so small he describes them as bugs. It's a powerful narrative twist, but canonically it's questionable, because the original novels give us something very different. At one point, Trisolaran leadership discusses how sophons interact with human perception and makes a very specific claim. The human retina is similar to the Trisolaran one. That single line has massive implications. A retina-based visual system isn't something you can shrink indefinitely. It requires focal distance and a minimum physical scale to function. No known insect has anything like this, because insects use compound eyes, which work on completely different principles. So if Trisolarans have retina-like vision similar to humans, they are almost certainly not the size of insects. And that's just the first constraint. The pendulum monument on Trisolaris is described as enormous. In fact, it is said to be so massive that it is difficult to imagine how it could ever have been set in motion. Likewise, the pyramidal structures built by the Trisolarans must also have been immense in scale to survive the planet's chaotic eras, and they were constructing them even during comparatively primitive periods equivalent to our late Neolithic. Relatively small structures struggle to endure over long time scales, even in stable desert environments on Earth, let alone in absurdly chaotic conditions like those on Trisolaris. So the monuments had to be enormous. None of this constitutes definitive proof, but it does suggest that the original conception of the Trisolarans envisioned them as far larger than simple bugs. The Santee do not communicate through telepathy, but through a form of direct visual thought transmission. In the novels, their brains emit electromagnetic signals that project their thoughts directly to others across significant distances. For them, thinking and communicating are effectively the same process. Even attempting to conceal their thoughts behind physical barriers would accomplish little. Their mental signals are transmitted across the electromagnetic spectrum, including radio waves and infrared frequencies, making complete shielding virtually impossible. This is why the Santee radically changed their attitude once they realized that human thoughts are private. Any long-term coexistence would place them at an enormous disadvantage. Humans could hide intentions and plan in secret, while Trisolaran intentions would remain completely exposed. To them, this was a terrifying mismatch. They became so disturbed by humanity's capacity for deception that they eventually severed communication even with the ETO, the very organization that had served them with absolute loyalty. In addition to total transparency, their mental communication has profound consequences for their society. A civilization without natural deception can develop exceptional social efficiency. Human institutions spend enormous resources dealing with trust. Contracts exist because humans can lie, and courts exist because testimony may be false. Much of our civilization is essentially infrastructure for managing distrust. Since Trisolarans don't have this limitation, collective action becomes vastly more efficient, especially during crises. This likely helped them survive repeated chaotic eras, where survival would favor extreme social coordination and rapid collective response. But this comes at a cost. Their transparency also weakens certain forms of individuality. In a civilization where thoughts are visible, even unconventional thinking would be exposed to everyone nearby. That alone would create huge social pressure to conform, not because of authoritarian control, but through the simple impossibility of concealing divergence. As a result, Trisolaran society may appear absurdly unified, disciplined, and strategically coherent compared to humanity. Their military behavior reflects this. The Trisolarans operate with extraordinary long-term focus and collective purpose. Their civilization can sustain projects spanning centuries because coordination friction is minimal. However, the inability to naturally hide thoughts also reduces creativity. Human innovation often comes from private experimentation, weird ideas people develop quietly before sharing them with the world. In a society with transparent cognition, on the other hand, unconventional thinking would be heavily suppressed because any deviation becomes instantly visible to everyone else. Another weakness is strategic rigidity. Humans evolved in a world full of deception, which made us exceptionally good at theory of mind, reading hidden intentions from incomplete information. Human societies are psychologically adapted to uncertainty. Trisolarans, on the other hand, without that evolutionary pressure, can easily underestimate just how strategically powerful human unpredictability can be. This becomes central to the trilogy's broader philosophical themes. Humanity's weakness simultaneously becomes its greatest strategic strength. According to the books, Trisolaran reproduction occurs when two individuals physically merge their bodies into one unified organism. Afterward, the combined body separates into 3 to 5 new individuals. However, unlike human children, Trisolaran offspring inherit parents' memories and are already relatively mature after birth. This biological difference may be one of the most important foundations of Trisolaran society. Since offspring inherit partial parental memories, a newly born Trisolaran is not a cognitively blank individual. Instead, it already possesses fragments of inherited experience from previous generations. This creates a much stronger continuity between parents and descendants than exists in human society. This reproductive system also fits naturally with their transparent thought. For them, reproduction is not merely the creation of a genetically new organism, but a direct continuation of existing consciousness into future individuals. The absence of a prolonged childhood may also explain why Trisolaran civilization appears more disciplined and strategically unified than humanity. Human societies devote enormous amounts of resources to raising children and integrating them into civilization. Trisolarans, beginning life already relatively mature, achieve social functionality much faster. The trilogy strongly suggests that this continuity contributes to their collectivist nature. In other words, on a highly unstable planet, evolution selects for total social cohesion. To find out more about the three-body problem universe, our channel explores many aspects that are often misunderstood. And for those interested in more complex topics about space, we have just published The Geometry of a Hostile Universe, which illustrates why the dark forest may not be just a theory, but a physical inevitability. It skips the usual sociological interpretations and instead starts with an intuitive exploration of relativistic motion and how it leads to a fundamentally hostile universe. For more, check the video description below.